Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Nightmare Hunters podcast. I know it looks a little different. DA is trying to walk our guests through some technical difficulties, but we got Carrie Pocket Doc Davis in the house and the wild man himself, Steve Monrotis. So you got the three of us until, well, hey, you got it.
There he
Woo!
is.
Good
I didn't
job.
think we were going to get it.
Good job, because I was struggling.
Yeah, Jonathan, thank you for joining us, man. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we had some issues getting you in here, and thank you for persevering through it, and we really appreciate having you here, sir.
No problem. I was able to use my iPad to get in.
That doesn't make sense to me how it would work on one and not the other, but unfortunately, I also use a Mac, but I have been educated by the re-education camp and use Chrome. So,
well, I have a bunch of friends in cybersecurity because I do a lot of books dealing with that, and they hate Chrome. They told me never, ever, ever to use Chrome. And when I had Chrome last time, I got hacked and lost my Facebook account for 8 months. So Chrome's not on the table here.
I totally understand that. I remember you going through that.
Yes.
Because I remember getting some funny messages, and I'm like, he doesn't usually reach out to me, and he sure don't sound like that.
Right. Anyway, so we're all here now.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, we kind of threw caution to the wind and jumped in the middle of things, but let's take a quick minute and for those of you who don't know who Jonathan is, I'm going to let Jonathan introduce himself, but if you guys are not familiar with his work, you guys really need to check out his books. An amazingly talented author. He's one of a kind. Jonathan, take it away, sir.
Thanks for those kind words. Hi, I'm Jonathan Mayberry. I'm a New York Times best-selling author in multiple genres. I write horror, science fiction, fantasy, thrillers, mysteries, all sorts of stuff, media tie-in as well. I write comics for Marvel, IDW, and Dark Horse. I edit Weird Tales magazine, edit anthologies, and I'm a writing teacher as well. So I'm in kind of all aspects of the writing business. And prior to being a novelist, I was a magazine feature writer. So I've been doing this writing thing since about 1978, doing fiction since 2006, and having a blast.
Well, I love your books, man, sir.
Thanks, man.
And a hell of a nice guy to boot. I think I had the pleasure of meeting you when you were doing a writing seminar at the Barnes and Noble in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania.
Oh gosh, it's a long time ago.
It's been 2013, I think it was. But I remember I was there with my buddy, and every time I travel, I go into brick and mortar bookstores because I'm that kind of a writing nerd. And I was flipping through, and I looked up. I was like, "Oh my god!" I was my buddy, like, "That's Jonathan Mayberry." It's like, "No way!" So I went up to the counter and I asked the gal at the counter. I said, "Is that Jonathan Mayberry, the author?" He goes, "Oh yeah, he does a thing in here like once a month or whatever." As if it was a matter of fact, I'm like, I have all his books on Kindle. Damn it, I don't have anything from the sign. I'll buy that.
I think that would have been the Writers Coffee House, and if it was 2013, it must have been just before I moved to San Diego, because that
was right before you moved. Yeah, you moved a month or two after I met you, but you were so gracious, and obviously I bought the book, you signed it.
I mean, I'm a book nerd, so if I'm around book nerds, I'm in a happy place.
Oh, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, they always say don't meet your heroes because they'll always disappoint you. I got honestly to say I have very few celebrity encounters, but you were the kindest, you were the most awesome, and God bless you. Thanks for doing that.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's a funny thing about meeting your heroes, because I've been fortunate enough to meet some of the writers and some of the creators that are my heroes. Stan Lee, I got to know pretty well. Became good friends with George Romero and a few others, and it's surreal because almost exclusively I've had good experiences meeting the writers whose works that I admire, or directors, and I've been really fortunate in that regard that I've only met a couple of jerks in the publishing and film and TV business. I know they're out there, but I seem to be able to steer away from them pretty well, so that works out, because I like playing with the people who actually enjoy this sort of stuff and respect one another.
Sure. I've only had one negative experience meeting a named author, and I won't say who it is. So I'm not gonna start that, but just
No.
every other time, it's always been very very helpful, very very friendly. If I asked them a question about my own writing, they were very helpful and gave me good advice. There's only one time that didn't happen.
Yeah, we all have those moments, but to pull a line from the song "Streets of Laredo," don't mention his name, and his name will pass on. So
There you go. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, George Romero. I have had the honor of meeting. I met him a few months before he died at a Comic-Con, and he was the coolest dude. I barely had enough money for the Comic-Con that year. It was just a tight time, and I brought this old, very very well used DVD copy of Night of the Living Dead. And of course, I didn't have any money for the merch tables or anything. And I brought it and asked if he would sign it. And he looked at it. He goes, "This has been well loved. You're darn right, I will." And I was like,
I got two funny stories to tell about George Romero, because he is kind of a fun guy to talk about. One is that after we had been on something like 50 panels together, we did we became friends and so on. And I wanted to do an anthology of stories set around Night of the Living Dead. And so I reached out to him and got him on the phone. I said, here's what I want to do. Do I have your permission? And he said, I can give you permission to do the anthology with three specific asks. One is that he says, I want to edit it with you. I'm like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, sure. Second, he said he wanted to write a story for it. I'm like, we can definitely do that. And the third one, he said, I loved your books, Dead of Night and Fall of Night. There was a character in Fall of Night who was one of my favorites. I don't want him to be dead. He's presumed dead at the end of the book. Have him be alive and write a story for our anthology, he's now calling it our anthology, that brings him, that character, to the house in Night of the Living Dead, so we can officially and permanently connect your stories and Night of the Living Dead. And I may have ugly cried on that one, just a little bit.
I don't blame you. I would have too.
That's awesome.
And I did it. And of course, that now exists. The other story is even funnier because it's so weird. So George and I got into the thing. We would talk on the phone a couple times a week. We had the same views on a lot of things. Pop culture, politics, life in general. Humanism, and so he called me one day and said, "Look, there's a reality competition show that my wife and I love, and none of my friends will watch it, and I want to have a buddy I can talk to about it." And I'm thinking, it's probably going to be Survivor or Amazing Race. You guys want to guess what reality show it was? Reality competition show.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Naked and
Masked
Afraid.
Singer.
See, Naked and Afraid I could almost understand with him. It was Project Runway. If I had
I never would have guessed that.
shows,
Yeah, that was
it would never
not
be
even.
He loved the show, and he got my wife and I hooked. So every week he'd call. We'd be on FaceTime with him and his wife, and my wife and I watching the show together, and then arguing about who got sent off and who shouldn't. I can't even sew on a button. Neither can George, by the way. And we are talking about asymmetrical hemlines and pencil skirts and peplum. We have no idea what's going on, but we love that show, and my wife and I still watch it, even though George is now gone. We still watch the damn show. It's
like
one of those
picturing
moments where I've never taken like acid or mushrooms, but I'm pretty sure that's what it would feel like, that moment.
Jonathan, you should do a tribute zombie short story for George about Night of the Living models.
That would be hilarious, actually.
There you go.
And I know some of the people who are involved in the show now. I've met them at different events, and George and I went out to dinner with Tim Gunn, who was one of the hosts at the time. So I bet I could probably get away with writing something like that. That would be hilarious.
It's like picturing Joe Ledger and the guys watching RuPaul's Drag Race or something like that.
Exactly.
It's just so out of context.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, all right, that I did not see that coming, and sure, let's go there, And I'm wondering. I know George isn't a heavy drinker, so what the hell? But he loved the show, and now we love the show, and life is weird.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like finding Joe Ledger watching The Bachelorette.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, if he's watching it with his girlfriend, I can almost see that, because
I was going to say, he will do whatever Junie tells him to do.
well, Junie asks him to do. He's not quite henpecked.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Close enough.
And the fact
because I
is
would
also, watch it as a great tribute to him too. So
Yeah, and like I said, we got hooked on it. It's like
awesome.
And then here's one of the universe being even weirder. So we're watching one of the spin-off shows called Under the Gun, which is Tim Gunn's show, and they had an episode where the designers were being asked to take inspiration from superheroes in order to do high fashion dresses. And they do a lot of things like that. And one of the designers, when she went to pick, she decided to pick the Falcon. She's a black designer, and Falcon's black superhero. But they showed a panel of a comic book, of the Falcon, and it's a panel right out of my Captain America comic where he's standing there with Cap and Black Panther. And my wife and I are staring at this, and George calls up and says, "Are you fucking seeing this?" So
That's awesome.
So that happened.
On that comic book note, you had a close tie to the Black Panther film, right?
Yeah, I wrote the comic for a while.
Wasn't there a character in the film that originated in the comic when you were writing it?
Well, there's a bunch of stuff that did. I was the first one to put Shuri in the Panther armor.
Okay.
I was the first one to put her up against Namor in my comics in 2009. I created the concept of the Midnight Angels, the Dora Milaje special ops group, and now in the movies, the Dora Milaje or the Midnight Angels is a body armor, and I created the character of Anika, so I all of that stuff made it into the film. I even got the Anika bobblehead on the wall behind me here. And that was surreal because when Marvel told me that they were using some of my elements for the movie, and they invited my son and I up to the world premiere up in the Dolby Theater in LA, I had no idea how much was going to be. I knew Namor was in there, so I figured that was. But then I kept seeing all these other references, and it's like, holy crap! And then one of the funny things is later on at the after party, I ran into Ryan Coogler, the director, and he said, "Somebody told me you're Jonathan Maberry." I'm like, "Yeah," and he says, "You're white." And I'm like,
I'm sorry?
Yeah. In fact, I'm really white. Well, most of the writers
You-
of Black
what?
Panther prior to me most of the writers right before me had been black. Christopher Priest, Reggie Hudlin, and so on. And I followed right along and even, helped, co-wrote Reggie's last 6 issues. So he just assumed I was a black writer. And, my sympathy or empathy rather toward the characters and situations and the politics of Western Africa all played into my run on it. So they just assumed I was another black writer. So I became the novelty of the party, and they kept dragging me around and introducing me to people.
That's awesome.
It's a weird old world out there.
Does it ever feel surreal? Does it ever feel surreal to you to see your work up on a big screen?
Yeah, it feels surreal in a lot of different ways. In fact, this last 10 days have been so surreal, and I can only tell you about some of it. But like, for example, last Monday, I had a meeting with Lionsgate, movie company. Chad Stahelski, directed John Wick, the John Wick movies, is developing my Joe Ledger for TV. And Lionsgate just invited me up there. I thought it was to talk about the TV show, because we haven't pitched it to the Lionsgate yet, but that's where he'll take the show. And they said, no, we'd like to talk to you about the possibility of you doing John Wick novels and comics. And I had not seen that coming. So that's an ongoing conversation. There's nothing set, nothing in contract yet, but it looks good, And then yesterday I had a call with an anime company in Tokyo who are looking to develop my Necrotech series as both anime and manga. And that came out of left field, out of the blue. But it's been like that. I mean, some of the things about this, I mean, I mentioned earlier, I'm a book nerd. I'm used to being like a pop culture nerd. I'm a big, tough pop culture nerd, but I'm still a pop culture nerd. Books, comics, toys, collectibles. And the people who created them were always somewhat surreal to me. They were not quite real to me. And now I know almost everyone who's alive, whose books I've read, and I know, like, my actor friends include Wayne Brady, who I co-write with some stuff. It's weird. Yeah, I feel like this is all like I'm in a coma somewhere dreaming this, but if anyone wakes me up, I'm gonna friggin' kill them, because this is too great a coma. I don't want to wake up from this.
well, you've crossed into pop culture yourself, when V Wars started airing, and I looked at who the cast was going to be, and your picture with you and Ian Somerhalder and whatnot, and what I'm supposed to be working tonight as we speak, but I'm getting to come in a little bit late because I told Mike I've got this plan. I got a chance to to interview this author. Hero of mine / friend of mine, and I thought, what does he write? I said, well, you may not being a big reader, you might know about a whole lot of it. I said, but you ever watch the show V Wars? Oh, I love that. He wrote that.
Oh,
and
nice.
they're like, oh yeah, and I wish Netflix would have made better choices with it, but I still loved it. I love that you wrote it.
I mean, it was a plague show that launched at the beginning of COVID, so my timing was just awesome with that. I was also doing a comic with IDW at the same time called Pandemica about a bioweapon released in the United States and the political back and forth and fight. And that came out at the beginning of the pandemic, and so many elements of it seemed like it was drawn from COVID. I had written it 2.5 years before that and was just now being published.
Life imitating art.
Yeah, and you don't want it to at times. If I write a book about me having lots of puppies and being given Lexus cars and millions of dollars, they can make that real. I'd be happy with that. But plagues and doom and bioweapons that I conjure up in a story that sometimes show up in the news is scary as hell.
Do you have something, Robbie? I think you started to speak.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you brought up John Wick, and I saw a video, I think last week, where it was a fan theory. I just wondered if you've heard it, that they're trying to loop John Wick and the Matrix in, saying that the John Wick universe is just a replay of the Matrix.
Yeah, I've heard the fan theory too, and I actually talked to Chad Stahelski about it because he was Keanu Reeves' stunt double in the Matrix movies. That's where they met. That's why he hired him for the John Wick things. But that's not actually going to happen. However, movies like Nobody and things like that are considered part of the extended John Wick world. Because it's all the same group of creators doing them, and they all kind of over glasses of scotch decided that these characters all exist in the same world, and it's a possibility that Joe Ledger might wander in and out of that world. We'll see what happens. I mean, Chad Stahelski, if we go to production with the television show, he's even said he would love to get Keanu to do a walk-on in the pilot because he wants to direct the pilot. And I'm like, yeah, I'd be down with that. My wife would be really down with Keanu Reeves.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And Keanu apparently is a really cool guy. He's writing comics himself. Writes Berserker, and he's a very chill guy. He's a good martial artist, and he's demonstrably one of the kindest people on earth. And people who don't like him even say that, because he's just one of those guys you can't find a bad thing about him because he hasn't done anything bad. He's actually a good guy. There are people like that. Ray Bradbury was another one. He's actually a good guy. Wayne Brady is like that. Wayne Brady's so wholesome. You stand next to him, your complexion clears up. I mean, there are some good people out there.
Well,
the rest just aspire to that.
Well, we were trying to toss over our head what we were going to do if the technical issues didn't resolve, and we didn't have you tonight. It occurred to me that in a weird, 6 degrees of separation kind of way, you are partly responsible for this show. So,
all right, I got to
follow
hear this.
me. Follow me. It's a little distant. So, you know how Amazon, you go and you buy something in a particular genre and you finish it, and Amazon goes, oh, well, because you read this, you might want to check out this writer or this.
Sure.
So, at the time, I was working with DA at the hospital that I work at. I work as a registered nurse, and he was the sergeant who was in charge of our nighttime security force.
Oh, so I was the deputy sheriff at the time, but I was working at the hospital in the overnights.
Yeah, nice. Kind of moonlighting. When you work in a hospital, especially in an urgent acute care setting, you like to know who the security guys are, and you want them to know you. It's safer, for many reasons. Well, so he and I become kind of casual friends. I met him when I was taking care of his sister when she was passing, and so we got to be friends. Well, I had just finished reading Patient Zero, and I got the little, I hit the and whatever. It's like, well, because you like this, you may enjoy reading Ragnarok Rising by D.A. Roberts. And so
Thanks.
I downloaded one of the books and I started reading it. Well, I ended up getting hooked on the series, and I got about 4 books into it. And he and I were just bullshitting about you, of all things. I was talking about, what kind of stuff do you like to read? I was like, well, I really love Jonathan Maberry. I like his, this series. I like that series. And if you wrote a cookbook, I would read it. And
It would be a really short cookbook.
hey,
Oil, butter, walk away.
Yeah, I'm not too picky. But I got to where I kind of like the stuff. And he goes, I write some too. And I said, oh, really? He said, what do you write? And he goes, well, I've actually have written some Zombie stuff and a little bit of, future sci-fi stuff. My biggest work's probably the Ragnarok Rising. And I said, so what name do you write under? Is it your own? He goes, I read under D.A. Roberts. And I had this fangirl moment. I literally squealed out loud. And I said, oh my God, you're D.A. Roberts. And he still tells the story and laughs about it because I was so pumped that I'd met D.A. Roberts. And I knew the books were set in the Ozarks, but I didn't realize I knew the author. And when as he started, writing and spreading out into other genres and writing bigger and bigger stuff, we decided we wanted to do a podcast to kind of boost, the signal in his books, maybe highlight some other indie writers, interview writers such as yourself. And so in some weird way, you were the little spark that kind of got at least my involvement started on this. So,
well, it's one of the nicer stories that because of you, this happened. There's some others we won't need to go into on this podcast. I'm just saying, but I'm glad Mike played my small part. You'll get my bill, and
Well, my next big fangirl moment was when he told me that you'd agreed to do the show the first time. This is your third appearance, but this first appearance, he goes, you never guess who I got on the show. And by this point, he and I were very close friends. And I was like, Jonathan Maberry is going to be on Saturday. I'm like, don't mess with the man. This isn't fair, whatever. And
you have wonderfully low standards. I appreciate that. But truth to tell, I mean, the reason I keep coming back to this podcast is it's fun. You guys are the kind of guys I would hang out with if we lived close.
Well, I would certainly be happy to share a scotch with you.
Yeah, well, that sounds good, and I'll have to get a hat to match some of you guys. I actually do have a cowboy hat, so.
Now, if you're going to hang out with us, then we're going to question your standards.
I have been entertained in low places many times. I'm just saying,
Well, you'd be right at home with us then.
Yeah, I mean,
and we have entertained in many low places before.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, one of my old buddies years ago was Randall Tex Cobb, if you remember him.
Yes, I sure do.
And
I remember him boxing and his acting career.
And kickboxing. He was ranked 5th in the world in boxing and 5th in the world in kickboxing at the same time. And I was stupid enough to volunteer to be his sparring partner for about a year and a half. We met when I was interviewing him for one of the karate magazines I was writing for. And we just got in the ring and started throwing punches around and we had fun. And we were boxing at Joe Frazier's gym in Philadelphia, which is
that's awesome.
on Broad Street. I was still teaching at Temple University at the time, so it was right down the street from where I was. And also, he got me punched by Joe Frazier. The short version of that story. So Randall and I were in the ring, and I was a full contact fighter. I was 102 wins, two ties, 2 losses, and but in the semi-pro thing, I never went pro. So I could hold my own, and I was a bodyguard and all that other stuff, so I'm used to fighting. And we're there sparring, and Frazier's leaning on the ropes and says, "You two boys just don't know how to throw a jab, do you?" And we're like, "We do, and we've used them to great effect." He's like, "Nah, no, you don't." So he gets in the ring with us, and right now I'm like, there's a part of me saying, "I'm in the ring with Joe Frazier. I need to leave." And he said, "Look, I just want to show you what a real jab is." He says, "One of you guys hit my palm. So we both did jabs, both hit his palm. And he goes, "Yeah, my little sister can do that, but that's okay." He says, "I only need one of you guys just to let me tab you with a jab in the chest. It won't be too bad." And there's a hand on my back, and Randall pushes me forward to volunteer. So I'm there, and Fraser says, "I'm just going to tap you with a jab. I'm not even going to do much with it. I'm just going to tap you with a jab." Hits me with the jab. I get my chest back in the mail like 2 weeks later. there's this gaping hole in the center of my chest. I had a bruise that didn't go away for weeks, and it was a jab. And he's like, "And that's a jab." And he said, everybody used to talk about how Muhammad was always the smart one, and I was always the Neanderthal. But I tell you, I know the science of punching. I can hit hard as I want to hit, wherever I want to hit. And he sort of explained to me. I realized that what he's demonstrating was the same principle as Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch. It's this physics thing that you do with lifting the heel, bending the knee, and is creating circular torque. I know the physics of it now. I didn't know it then, and but yeah, he could do that punch, that tap jab, because that way he says it's not like a touch and a punch. It's like 2 bullets from the same gun, bang bang. And he said, that's why you hit the guy the right way. You sit him down, and he reconsiders his life decisions. I'm like, all right, I am reconsidering mine now.
Oh.
But anyway, funny, weird life.
Yeah, I could see you at some of these like red carpet things, and you're like the only celebrity there that doesn't need his own bodyguard. Yeah.
Well, I was a Hollywood bodyguard for a long time, or actually music industry bodyguard. Only a couple of Hollywood people, mostly music industry.
So
Fleetwood
you got
Mac, Bob Seger, Tom Waits, Boston, Kansas, Casey and the Sunshine Band, and others. Our company was only hired when there was a credible threat against a performer. So we were hired to be, close bodyguards while the whatever law enforcement agency had jurisdiction was looking into it. We were not entourage guards, which are basically just the biggest guy you put him in a suit and sign him on. We actually were trained. We spent 12 weeks at the FBI Academy learning kidnap prevention, high-speed driving, the whole thing. And, there was mostly nothing happening, and then when something did happen, bad stuff happened. Like I got chopped in the shoulder with a meat cleaver once. I don't recommend it. Got slashed across the forearm, scar there from a razor while pushing Stevie Nicks into a limo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. It's always fun when fighters get around and start to compare. It's like that scene in Jaws,
That's what I was thinking.
Mary Lou, she broke my heart,
Yeah, I'm thinking about my gallbladder scar here. I'm like, no, I'm not I got nothing to add.
This one's from a resisting arrest beer bottle.
Oh, there you go. I had an ice pick in my stomach, which was also not fun. I was young, and back then I was 20 when I signed on. Back then, you believe that you will heal from everything, and then when you heal, all memories of that injury will be gone from your body. And then you hit a certain age, and you start getting, expired warranty notices on all your body parts. And
about 40, that check engine light comes on.
Oh God, all my lights are flashing all the time. I'm looking at 70, pretty close enough to read the fine print, and I can feel everything that ever broke. And I've had 29 surgeries to repair damage, and I'm allergic to painkillers. So that's been a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now I see that somebody has a question. What do I think of Jet Li? Jet's a fantastic actor. He's a good wushu practitioner and really, really fast. And once a couple of guys tried to mug him, which is the stupidest damn thing in the world, and he beat the crap out of them. He does not consider himself a great fighter. I did meet Jackie Chan and Vincent Zhao, 2 actors from Jackie Chan, of course, he was Bruce Lee's stunt double. So that gives you an idea. I mean, half the people that Bruce Lee killed in those movies or beat up was Jackie Chan in different costumes, different angles, and different wigs. Probably the ones that I think are the best actual fighters in the business. Vincent Zhao. Have you ever seen the show Age of Heroes? 36 episodes about a historical character. It's the character who, if you ever saw Chinese Connection, or was it Fist of Fury, whichever one where Bruce Lee plays Chen Chen, the guy who goes and beats up the whole karate school.
I think that's
his character. It's
one
of those.
Fist of Fury. I
think
think it could be. The Fist of Fury is where he goes undercover, so it's the other one, I think.
Okay, so he's that character is a fictional character, but the guy, the murdered instructor that he's avenging in that movie is the character that Vincent Zhao plays in Age of Heroes, Hua Yuanji, who is a really great martial artist. So he's good. Donnie Yen is fantastic. Big fan of Donnie Yen.
Yeah,
and
Donnie.
Yeah, he's great. And there's a bunch of the guys out there that are really good. But they're actors who know martial arts. They're not street fighters, just like a lot of the martial artists who appear in armor, Cynthia Rothrock and so on. They appear in a lot of martial arts movies. They're really talented martial artists, but being a martial artist does not mean you're really qualified for fight on the street. I know a lot of martial artists who are not good on the street. They think a black belt somehow gives them armor. It does not. But that's part of our culture. We don't understand the difference between martial arts and fighting. It's funny. This past Sunday, I just gave a workshop on writing fight and action scenes, and talking about that sort of thing was a big part of that, because I'm a action scene snob. If it's a movie where they're going to have wire work and all that stuff, and that going in, I'm totally cool with it. But when it's supposed to be real fight scenes and it's like tragically, naively, hilariously bad, I have issues with it. So, and somebody asked if I ever met Ed Parker. No, I did not. I know people who knew him, but I did not meet Ed.
To me, one of the greatest fight scenes in a movie was Roddy Piper and Keith David in They Live.
Oh yeah, Ain't Love Grand. I love that fight scene.
They just beat the living daylights out of each other for real for what, 8 minutes?
Yeah, I mean they would have been in the hospital with both their hands, every bone in their hands splintered, because you really don't want to punch face with hand if you don't have to. But it was one of the most entertaining fight scenes ever. I love that scene, and that line, "Ain't love grand," Somebody's asking what I think about Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal is a racist piece of shit who couldn't fight his way out of an elevator if he's alone in it. He is nothing but a terrible human being. He's a traitor to this country, and he's not a good martial artist. Ask any real martial artist; they will have opinions about Steven Seagal.
I love listening to Michael Jai White talk about Steven Seagal.
I think Master Ken's a better fighter than Steven Seagal.
Oh my God, I love Master Ken.
I think Diamond Dave's a better fighter than Steven Seagal.
Ninja Star.
Yeah. But Michael Jai White is actually really, really good, and I like him. I've met him a couple of times at events, and I really like him. He's pretty down to earth. He's one of the guys I wouldn't mind seeing cast as Top in a Joe Ledger TV show.
Be a good one.
He has the moves, and if you're not an asshole, he's the easiest guy in the world to work with. But I've heard that if you are, like if you're a prima donna, or if you make it all about you, then he's not your friend. So
it's
why you get the videos of him talking about Steven Seagal the way he is, because Steven Seagal's that prick.
Yep.
It's interesting you made the distinction there between actual fighting and martial arts. I can't do either, and so I'm always amazed when I see some of this stuff. I had the opportunity about 15 years ago or so, 20 years ago now, to live and work in Manila in the Philippines for a while. And I worked overnights because he was part of a call center environment, so the shifts were flipped. And we would hang out in some pretty seedy parts of Manila after hours because that's all that was open. And I watched two people get into a fight, and they were stick fighting.
Yeah.
And the fight lasted about 3 minutes, and one of them was dead.
Ooh,
and I was like, "Oh my God!" And I had a liaison. His name was Voltaire. That was around, and I said, "Yeah." I watched the guy go down, and then the other guy just kind of puts his sticks away and goes back inside the bar wherever he was. And I was like, "Voltaire, is that guy okay?" And he looked at me and go, "No, he fucking dead." I was like, "Oh, very matter of fact about it."
Yeah, Eskrima is a wonderful martial art. I don't know if you guys know that the Conquistador Magellan, the explorer, he was killed in the Philippines by Eskrima. He challenged Lapu-Lapu, the king of the Philippines at the time, to a duel on the beach with the belief that, or with the agreement that if Lapu-Lapu wins, Magellan and his people go away and never come back to the Philippines, and if he loses, then they take the Philippines. And Lapu-Lapu killed Magellan on the beach with sticks, and unfortunately nobody lived up to the promise, and the Philippines got invaded.
Right.
But
I was just shocked at how fast it was.
Oh yeah.
Like it was a blur, and you could hear the sticks cracking against bone and other stuff. It was like, oh dear God. yeah, I guess I watched too many martial arts films, and it was a lot messier than I expected it to be.
Yeah, real fighting is messy. It's loud. It's usually brief. I mean, a couple of minutes for a fight is long. The two must have been closely matched for it to last that long, because
Yeah, or
generally,
it may have been shorter. It seemed longer, but
like most of the fights that I've been in as a bodyguard, and for years as a bouncer, you're talking 2 to 3 seconds. It's win or lose in 2 to 3 seconds is done.
Yep.
If it goes longer, you're playing, not fighting, because you don't want to fight to drag on and on like in the movies. Yeah, because it has to be entertaining. That's why I love the fight choreography in the first season of Reacher. I mean, it's good fight choreography. The prison scenes are the best ones, but the scenes are longer than they would be in real life. Same with Gabriel Basso, who stars in The Night Agent. He's an actual martial arts champion, and he's one of the guys we're talking to for Joe Ledger. And
I could see that.
Yeah.
They had to slow him down, just like they did with Bruce Blade, slow him down for the fight scenes. And he kept hitting the stuntmen because he is not used to pulling his punches. He was a tournament fighter. He was a street fighter. And they kept hitting the stuntmen. So there were some issues with it, which is why in the second season, the choreography, he doesn't do as much close contact stuff.
see, I always pictured somebody like Alan Ritchson as Joe Ledger, because I pictured a big dude. But I haven't seen Reacher. I haven't seen Alan fight, to know if he would have any.
Alan, I mean, he's a big, tough guy. He's not a martial artist, but he choreographs well. But he's too big for Ledger. Ledger is built like a baseball player. He's 6'1", 205 pounds, and lean muscle. Bunny I actually thought of Ritchson long ago for Bunny, but unfortunately, he's too big a name to be a supporting character now. And we're likely going to talk to Tom Hopper, who was in the Umbrella Academy, to play Bunny.
Okay.
Because he's 6'5" and he's built, and he has that young face. He looks innocent. So, Joshua Dalton said, Jonathan, have you ever read any of DA stuff? Yeah, I read Ragnarok Rising, of course. I mean, of course. If you would say whether or not it would be good TV or movie material, I always think something like that would be better on TV, and here's why. I'll give it to you in Chad Stahelski's words. The very first thing he said to me when I met him and we were talking about the Joe Ledger, because all I knew is my agent told me to go up and talk to him, and I thought he was going to talk movies, and we're still shaking hands, and he's holding on to my hand and says, I just want to tell you straight up, I have no interest in making a Joe Ledger movie, because if we do it, we're going to lose all the character development. And he says the Joe Ledger series says there's a lot of action thrillers out there, and they're all plot, stuff. You go character development, and that needs to have, hours of television. And I think, DA, your stuff too, your characters, I mean, there's a lot going on with the characters, their growth, their interaction. You'd lose that in an action film. TV would be better.
I would love to see done Game of Thrones style, like an extended series.
Yeah. For me, I love TV. I also, movies. I would be okay with movie. I got a movie in development now. Rotten Ruin is getting closer to a production deal. They're actually out looking for money right now. But I prefer TV. I'm more of a TV guy, and I do like all that character development. That's why I like Reacher on TV. I like the Jack Ryan series was on TV. The CJ Box Joe Pickett series was on TV. I like to be able to get inside the heads and hearts of the characters through a variety of different experiences, so that we then understand why they go to certain levels in crisis. That makes more compelling television for me. And I even if they had cast the first two Jack Reacher movies properly, like with a guy who's not 5'7", I don't think those movies would have caught the Reacher character. The series does it great.
Shut up, Robbie.
I wasn't laughing at you, Doc. I was laughing at who I'm assuming he's talking about.
When I saw that the Reacher movies were coming out, because I'd read the books, I'm like, Lee Child's got to be spinning right now, because this is about the antithesis of Jack Reacher.
Yeah. Like that ain't Reacher. Well, that ain't Reacher.
Lee confided to his friends, and we all know him, that it was a good payday.
Get it for the money.
I can understand that, because without those movies, there wouldn't have been the Jack Reacher TV show.
True.
And actually, it was the the backlash to those movies that made them go out of their way to get someone who looks like Reacher.
Biggest dude they could find.
Yeah, and
the biggest dude they could find was in this most recent season.
Oh,
God dang, that dude is huge.
7'1" or 2.
Yeah.
Built like
the Danish giant.
Yeah, you need a silver bullet for a guy like that. I mean, possibly an Abrams tank.
I was going to say a tank round would be good. Yeah,
he might,
not if he gets the first punch in. I don't think the Abrams is coming out of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He might dent that tank, But that's a big guy, and it's funny because I'm a big guy too. I'm 6'4". I'm back in the day I was benching 400. I was a moose. Older now, but every once in a while you'd run into a guy bigger. I was in a tournament once with a guy they called the Okinawan Oak. He was 6'8" and 380 pounds, and there was an ounce of fat on him. I step in the ring, I'm like, shit. And if I beat him by points, and my instructor always taught the big guys in the class to be fast because everybody assumed we'd be strong, but he wanted us to be fast. And I'm a really fast fighter, and I was hitting him every single direction. I wasn't doing shit. Like when we started, first thing I did is I blocked him and I threw a knuckle punch right in his solar plexus, and he went. That's the point at which I saw a vulture sitting on my corner of the ring post. I'm like, oh shit! And the fifth and final round. He had worked me kind of back into a corner, and I put my foot on the rope, jumped up, and went to do an overhand right that should have put him and most of his extended family in the hospital. And about halfway through my jump, I just saw this bucket-sized fist floating toward my face, and I woke up in the showers with my buddies standing around laughing at me, hoping I wasn't dead. So yeah, we all have met guys like that.
I went to put a guy in handcuffs one night. He was about 6'7", about 310 pounds, and I'm 5'10", 250, and I'm looking up at this guy going, "Yeah, this is not going to work." And he looks at me and he goes, "Son, I can take any punch you can throw at me." I said, "Well, I believe that, so I'm not going to throw a punch." He goes, "Oh yeah, what are you going to do?" And I hit him right on the brachial nerve and folded him up.
Nice. Yeah, that's the one thing though. And again, we're talking about this between martial arts and street fighting. The big guy I fought in that ring, I wouldn't have been nearly as afraid of him in a street fight because I'm way down closer to his feet, knees, and groin. I am not a nice fighter. I never was trained to be fancy looking or pretty in a fight. My instructor knew that I had a father who was kind of like the big guy I fought in the ring. My father was gigantic and powerful and also a career criminal, serial abuser, and everything else. He was a terrible human being. He ran the local chapter of the KKK too, so it was a swell household to grow up in. And that's why I started studying martial arts as a kid. When I was 14, I got big enough to get between him and my sisters. And, he fought me like a boxer, and I fought him like a fucking Wolverine. I broke everything I could break and put him in the hospital for several weeks. But there's no such thing as a fair fight. If I'm fighting somebody bigger, stronger, whatever, in any way better than me or perceivably better than me, I'm not going to give them a chance to use that advantage. That's stupid. And when I taught women self-defense, which I did for 35 years, that's the philosophy I taught. Avoid the fight at all costs, and if you can't, win the fight. No matter how, you have to win that fight. And first student of mine ever defended herself was attacked in an elevator. So the whole idea of kick the guy in the groin and run, which a lot of places teach, doesn't really work. But she, I always teach these students when they're going somewhere, like she was going from her office down to a parking garage, to have something in her hand. So she had a big medium point blue pen in her hand. Guy attacked her. When the EMTs got there and took him off to emergency, he had 96 puncture wounds from that pen.
That'll do it.
He tried to rape and brutalize her, and she had nowhere to run. She could not flee the situation. She was 5'2", he was 6'1". And
went at him like a sewing machine.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I wrote to the Bic company to tell them about it, so they would find it amusing. They actually invited she and I out to their corporate shareholders meeting, and she told that story, and they celebrated her, and they thought it was great. And then this was at Temple University when I was teaching there. Every semester after that, I would get a case of Bic medium point blue pens.
That's
We've
awesome.
got a couple. So, anyway, let's talk about books for a while.
Wow.
Enough about mindless violence. Let's talk about books.
So I do have something that's been bugging me on how you put it together. Now, I am not a writer. I'm the two gentlemen in the first two panels are the writers in the crowd here next to yourself, of course. One of the things that led me to your stories, especially the Joe Ledger series, is I love how, like a lot of writers, you tell the story from the first person. But in the case of Joe Ledger, first person is three people. But he's got the multiple personality situation there. How do you put that together? Like, I've heard a lot of writers that, like DA, for example, mention that the characters sometimes write themselves, and you're at the mercy of whatever the character does. How do you keep that straight when the main character is psychotic and there's three personalities at play?
Well, first off, Joe's childhood or boyhood trauma that he went through, I went through. So I have a lot of that shared experiences, slightly different. The difference is I was already involved in martial arts, but I got there after she was attacked, whereas Joe was not a martial artist and he was there too badly hurt to do anything while she was attacked. And it did damage to me. I mean, I know I have trauma damage from that, and I always will have it. It's one of the reasons that I focused on teaching women self-defense, that and my sisters, and one of the reasons I was so vicious about it when I taught. But in terms of writing it, there are a lot of different approaches to writing. Some people do something close to method acting, where they have to completely embody the character. Some people like to be kind of like a conductor, where they have all the different characters and they kind of let them do their thing, but they keep it in line because that's to follow a plot, which sounds a little like what you're doing, DA. And then there are a bunch of others. My thing is, every character works for me, so I don't get into their heads beyond what is comfortable. I get in their heads enough to test drive their car, make it do what I want, but I can also step out and be me that fast. Because I write about such toxic characters. I mean, there's a lot of them that are really damaged. I don't want to carry that around with me. I got a wife, I got a family. I'm a new grandfather now, so I don't want to walk around with that toxicity still under my skin. So when I'm done writing, I am done writing for the day, and I'm closing that down. It's like shutting off my computer in my head. Now, mind you, writers always thinking about writing, but the characters don't take over. And that's useful because I write so many different series and so many different books. I mean, I've written 55 novels in the last 19 years, and almost 200 short stories and 31 runs of comics. All those have different characters. You can't stay in the heads of those characters too much because it can damage your own psyche. I have a friend who wrote did a novel about PTSD and wound up with pretty bad depression as a result of it, because he couldn't. I mean, he was empathetic, which is a great skill for a writer. Trying to live in the skin of the characters for the moment, but you also have to know how to get out of it. Empathy is great, but you need a set of tools to step out of it, because otherwise it will own you and define you. And I don't want to be defined by that. I am a fairly happy human being by nature. I want to stay that, and I mean, it's not like there haven't been moments, times where you write something and it's so heavy you walk away. But I go down to the beach, sit on the beach for the rest of the day, or I'll go take my dog for a long walk, or I have my outs, my valves that help me release the pressure. And sometimes you create a character though that is so vile. I'm thinking of Owen Minor from the novel Ink, or Raphael Santoro from the Joe Ledger books, who is so vile that you wonder, where the fuck did that come from in my head? And you want to do a little soul searching, so you're afraid that there isn't a hide beneath the Jekyll, But generally, I've learned to have compartments. This character is done; he can go to his room now. He can go play video games or watch a movie or whatever. But he's done now, and now it's me time. And that helps. Like I'm right now, right before this call, in fact, I was working on the last chapter of the third book in my Necrotech series. Characters I love are dying. Other characters are going to extreme lengths to be able to survive. There's hurt and harm. And while I'm writing it, I'm feeling it. But when I stop writing it, I step out. And find it to be a very good defense mechanism, but maybe a health feature built into the overall, I'm a writer package.
And I don't know if you feel the same way as I do, DA, but I guess being a cop for as long as I have, it's kind of like what you're talking about. You have to be able to just, you don't want to bring that stuff home. I've been doing that for, going on 29 years now. So I think that's kind of helped me with the writing when you get into something like that, of being able to, okay, well, I'm done. And you're out of it. So that's, for me, that's how I kind of do. I kind of treat it the same way I have with law enforcement. Okay, in the moment, I'm doing what I got to do.
Right.
Handle it the way I got to handle it. But then once I'm done. I can be me, and it's. But I agree with you. I think that if you let some of that stuff kind of drive you or stay with you, it's probably not really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that a lot of people in law enforcement and so on drink. There's a lot of reason a lot of them have PTSD, because some of them don't know how to switch it off. They don't know how to step out of it. And I have a ton of friends who are cops. It's one of the reasons Joe Ledger's a cop. My sister was a cop. A lot of relatives and friends were cops. And I also I used to have a company called CopSafe. We would teach law enforcement officers how to do arrest and control safely, so that they didn't go up the force continuum too high, and they didn't wind up getting them and their department sued. So everything, kept it neutral. And some of those cops would come in there because they had already been reprimanded for too much, and they're frustrated by that, and they haven't yet taken off that skin to come in and learn some new skills. And so we had to deal with some of that. And it's tough to see, because you can't do that job well if the job is consuming you. You can't be a good soldier if you are haunted all the time. You guys know what Delta Force is, right?
Yeah.
So I was not military, but I for years did workshops for Delta Force on a very specific kind of combat interaction called 0-point response. And here are guys who have ended lives, a lot of lives over the years. And you can see the ones that are not going to survive it, and you see the ones who are going to need to get asked, suggested that they maybe retire from this. And you can see the ones who have the really good defense mechanisms, maybe a good therapist, maybe a partner, a wife or friend or whatever, who can help them, but they know how to take off the suit. And there needs to be more of that, not only within the individuals, but within the departments and the military, to train people to be able to survive their own training and experience. We teach them, my friend David Morrell wrote the novel First Blood. If you ever saw the movie, the book is so much better. It was the first novel written about PTSD. And the whole premise there is
nowhere.
No, I mean, the movies were fun. They made David some money, but the book was a heartbreaking book.
Yeah,
it was. It was.
Well,
because
I mean, it's pretty much a role reversal in the book from the movie.
Yeah. And
I mean, having been military for a number of years, I was a flight medic in the Air Force, and then I've worked paramedicine and critical care and emergency room RN, and I've been doing that I've been a nurse for 23 years.
Awesome.
It was the advice we got back in the day was, suck it in the military was suck it up and push it down. Horrible advice. I mean, that led to some less than stellar coping mechanisms. I mean,
hell yes.
And now I teach classes all over the United States, teaching emergency first aid, emergency trauma care classes all over the United States. And one of my previous slides is critical incident stress management. That's one of the last slides I do. And I'm like, dude, you got to take care of yourself. And I'm very proud to say I had a wonderful counselor, a wonderful therapist that got me through some stuff, and I was able to take that off and not have it home with me, not have it affect my home life, not have it affect my life with my children or anything like that. Yeah. And that's a big thing. And I'm glad to see more departments now are being proactive with it, and they're more programs available, but it's still not where it needs to be. I agree.
Yeah, it's not nearly where it needs to be. My brother was Air Force as well. He was Vietnam, 3 tours, Red Horse Division. He was a combat engineer.
Oh yeah, civil engineering
Yeah,
dudes, awesome dudes.
So they would drop defoliant and then send them in with a small detail to protect them to build helicopter bases. And my brother, who was 17 when he enlisted, he got permission from his parents to enlist early because he didn't want to get drafted in the Army. He didn't want to have to go and shoot anybody. He was a car mechanic, wanted to be that. They promised him he'd get a stateside gig if he got some of his friends to join with him. They'd all get a stateside gig. Sent him right to Vietnam, all of them. And he brought 5 of his buddies who were all in a band together. They all enlisted together in the Air Force to stay out of combat because they just wanted to come home and make records. 5 of them died in Vietnam.
Oh.
My brother came home haunted by ghosts and would not do therapy. And 3 years ago, he killed himself.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's what happens when either you devalue therapy or you don't think you are damaged enough, or you have been told that if you get through it, you've gotten through it. No.
Right. And like you said, you hit on an important point earlier, just like, Steve and I have been in the medical field for many years and dealt with a lot of traumas and things like that. Just like Robbie and DA have done it in law enforcement, and you've dealt with your own traumas growing up. You can't let that stuff define you. You have to, and as a writer, like you said, you have to, you can't immerse yourself so much into the characters that you become them, and you have their demons. You carry their demons with you. So that was a great point. That I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. And one of the other things about that is when you're writing, it also gives you the opportunity to explore other versions of personalities, even other decisions. In my first couple of novels, the Ghost Road Blues books, I had 2 different characters based on different versions of me. One is a kid who was going through what I was going through as a child, being physically abused, and the point at which he realizes that he will outlast his abuser is the first moment of real individual strength he's ever had. His father is now getting older. His stepfather's getting older, and he's working harder at beating him up, whereas he's getting older and he's used to getting beat up, so it's not doing as much to him. And he sees how hard his stepfather's working on it. And he knows he will outlast that. That was a moment I had too. When I was 13 and a half, which is why 14 I stood up to my dad. And the other character was was a character that what I might have become if I hadn't had martial arts around me. If I didn't have something to lean on that had structure. Because I started martial arts before my 6th birthday. My next door neighbor, my best friend lived next door, and his father was afraid of my dad and hated him too. And they were studying martial arts. They started teaching me on the sly, and then I joined that dojo. But I know that I'm the youngest of 6. I had an older brother who's gone, and I had 4 sisters. One is gone now, and each of them were abused, and each of them found different ways to deal with it. A couple of my sisters got into substance abuse, really bad, and one of them it killed. So I know that the structure of martial arts helps. Writing is another thing that helps too, because we can embody the other characters in different experiences and write them out, and maybe give the fictional character a better third act than the real world often has. So we get a sense of borrowed closure from that, and that is healthy.
It's very therapeutic.
Singers, songwriters do the same thing. Some dancers do the same thing. They get out there dancing, and they're dancing out an emotion. Maybe the audience sees something else, but they know what they're doing, and the exertions of the performance is like sweating out a toxin. And it's creativity is a marvelously underappreciated thing for helping the soul heal.
Amen.
Well, I mean, look at athletes that use athletic. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, you use the gifts that you were given for the right reasons. It's like I said, it's therapeutic. I got to question off the topic of what we've been, because this.
Oh, sure.
I'll be right back, guys. I'm sorry, I've got to talk to my wife real quick. She's in Mississippi taking care of her mom, so I'm going to say good night to her, and I'll be right back on. Sorry.
Good night.
Say hello to the Mississippi.
Okay.
So the book that I found from you first that I read was the Werewolves 15 Minutes. Where did that come from? I'm a werewolf guy. Again,
me
that's
too.
that's what my books are primarily about, is werewolves, Ulfhead Nar, things like that. So that's what.
You'll have to send me the titles of some of your books so I can look them up.
I only got 3, working on 4, so it ain't like it's hard to send you.
What's the first one?
First one is Shadow Walkers, Silver Star.
Okay, I'll look it up. So werewolves, I've always been a fan of werewolves, my favorite monster. And I've also written 5 nonfiction books about werewolf folklore, werewolf and vampire and other types of folklore. And it's interesting how different the werewolves in folklore are from the werewolves in movies. Like all the stuff that most people think about, the silver bullet, the 3 days of the full moon being when they're a werewolf, the fact that it's a curse passed on, none of that is in folklore. It's all created by Kurt Siodmak for the 1941 movie The Wolfman. And my first New York Times bestseller was the novelization of the remake of The Wolfman. So I've really leaned into werewolf culture, werewolf history, and so on. I have a whole series about a werewolf private eye, who's part of a type of werewolf from Livonia called the Benindante, the Good Walkers. But as far as werewolves 15 minutes, I'm a big fan of YouTube, influencers. Yes Theory, if you ever watch that, it's wonderfully positive and it's fun. Bunch of guys who basically their motto is seek discomfort. If you're afraid of heights, skydiving. If you don't think you can stand the cold, do an ice bath. All these different things they do to basically, even though they don't use this phrase, it's the samurai axiom of if you're afraid of ghosts, sleep in a graveyard. So I love YouTubers, but also sometimes I see these guys who are on there and they're trying the stupidest things to try to be famous. And here in San Diego, we it's a surfer culture, so you got some of these surfer slackers who this is all they want to do. They want to surf and they want to drink beer and they want to have girlfriends, and that's all they want to do. So I say, get someone like that with no real ambition, no real skills, maybe not the smartest person you're going to meet, and have him be a werewolf, and then let him out himself on YouTube, try to become an influencer on YouTube because of that. And it was one of those things where I woke up laughing with that idea in my head. It must have been the tail end of a dream. And I pitched it to my agent. She said, that should be something for Audible because it sounds like it should be read aloud. So we pitched Steve Feldberg, who's the director of Audible, and the head of Audible, and we pitched it to him, and he said, "Oh, I got to have that." So we did it. Ray Porter read it, and one of the funny things is there's a scientist in there named Ronald Coleman, Dr. Coleman, who eventually is killed by the werewolf at the end of the story. He's a real guy. He is my scientific advisor. He's in the Joe Ledger books now, and he's a real guy. And the moment at which the werewolf kills him and says, "Fuck you, Ronald Coleman," I want to, attack him. Ronald says that is his favorite thing from anything he's ever heard. He wants it as his ringtone. So Ray Porter, the reader, is going to do that for his ringtone.
That's hilarious.
Awesome.
I can see him in a meeting with a clinical studies thing, and his phone says, "Fuck you, Ronald Coleman." That would be hilarious. But
I thought that was like genius level of how that because I was, like I said, I'm a werewolf guy. I read and these two right here will tell you that when it comes to werewolf stuff, I will watch any cheesy B, D, C, E all the way down to Z werewolf movie that comes down the pipe.
I'm going to ask you about one, and if you haven't seen it, we may never talk again. Dog Soldiers.
Oh,
one of the top,
fantastic movie.
One of my favorites.
Now we're friends for life here.
Great movie.
My favorite werewolf film of all time.
Yep.
That's one of my favorites too. And they introduced me to it, and I was like, "This is awesome."
See
I love that movie.
That's good friendship there. If you introduce them to Dog Soldiers,
that's
one of my. I watch it every Halloween week.
That to me, Dog Soldiers it's what werewolf movies needs.
Yeah, I had to buy it.
Yeah,
I had to buy it.
Vampire movies get all the love, and you don't ever get a good werewolf movie. That was a good werewolf movie.
Werewolves don't sparkle.
What's that?
I said werewolves don't sparkle. They just rip crap up.
Yeah, I generally like my monsters to be bad guys. I mean, sometimes I write about good monsters, but I like my monsters to be bad guys. I like them to be the thing that people have to level up in order to be able to fight. And I love your dog. Who's your dog?
Thank you. He's trying to get up and lick my face.
Rosie is down there. She keeps looking at me, hoping I'm going to give her treats. She's a little too old to jump up in my lap now. She's 14 and she's getting a little.
Canine forced his way in when you were talking earlier. That's how I ended up with him for a brief moment. He likes to be on the show. He's got a little fandom.
And
Rosie gets fan mail, and weirdly, the fictional dog that Joe Ledger has gets fan mail, and I never quite understood
That's
what
cool.
kind of response they're expecting from a fictional dog.
So that's funny. You know,
A fictional podcast.
I used to have a neighbor who had a white shepherd dog. His name was Reverend, and for the longest time until we met her and met her dog, my wife used to call the dog Ghost. You know,
Oh, nice.
just because of the stories. But Reverend actually made it to 16. He passed a few months back, but he was my buddy, and he meet me at the mailbox when I get up from work in the morning, and it was pretty cool. Having Ghost living here.
Yeah. It's funny about ghosts is when I decided I wanted to give Joe a combat dog, I originally thought I was going to get a standard shepherd, but I decided to have a contest. So I threw it out to the readers and I said, give me suggestions for a breed and a name. And we got so many responses, I mean, thousands of them, that I got a couple of friends of mine, this is back when I was in Pennsylvania, who were canine cops. And they were retired canine cops. And I said, just vet these, go through. Each of you do it separately and give me the top 5. Top of both lists was a white shepherd named Ghost. And
Very
they didn't
cool.
communicate about it either. They just, it was just that sort of thing where it just seemed like Joe would have an unusual dog and something kind of with a spooky personality. And I based the personality on my dog Spooker that I have growing up, who was a Doberman Mastiff mix. So a rather large, frightening looking dog. And he was the kind that would, he would knock your beer over and then help you clean it up, because kind of dog he is. He's man's best friend, and when he would eat a sandwich, like if you would give him a sandwich, he would take it apart like Ghost does and eat each piece individually. I thought it was so weird and fascinating, But
I have a
Rosie's
shepherd
just
husky, and she
adorable.
does that.
Yeah, it's interesting how uniquely individual each dog is. I mean, all cats are wonderful, but they're all evil. So we know where we stand with those. But dogs, I like dogs more than I like most people.
Yeah, dogs have people and cats have staff.
Yeah, that is exactly. I'm stealing that line. That's a great line.
He
That's
got
Joe Ledger-
a lot of them.
I think
You
Joe
know,
Ledger's
King-
got to say that line at some point.
King of Plagues came out about the time that I adopted my first dog that I adopted myself, and he was just like a black terrier mix named Bart, and he had such a personality. I used to joke that he was an animagus, and then someday I would come home from work and I would just find Steve Buscemi sitting on my couch reading a paper naked because the dog had shifted. But we lived in this apartment or duplex, and the yard had moles, and he absolutely hated any critters. Like, he could kill a rabbit like nothing flat. He used to drive me nuts because I love all animals, and he would kill everything, Well, he was trying to get to one of the moles in the yard, and he's having a fit. He's just digging, and digging. And finally, he looks at the hole, he snorts, and then he pissed on it and walked away. And
Eloquent.
I totally pictured, Ghost doing something like that. I was like, I go to the character, and like literally in the dog's mind, it was like, well, piss on you then, and walks off. I doubled over in the yard. I was on my knees laughing, and my neighbors thought I was nuts. But it's like you could just read in his head, what's going on with it.
That's great. Yeah, Rosie's great. She used to go to book signings with me, but she's getting a little older now. She's deaf as a post, unfortunately.
Oh, but she's so sweet.
She is. She's a Cavalier King Charles Rat Terrier mix.
Okay,
And
I was wondering
in
what
her
the mix
prime,
was.
she was the fastest dog I ever saw. We have Dog Beach here in the San Diego area, which is exactly what it sounds like. You bring your dogs, and there's nothing to catch her. I mean, when she was in gear, she'd jump up on the rocks and go all around. The other dogs, you could see them like, I got things to do. I can't do this. But now she's old and slow, but she's still the most adorable and beautiful dog, and I love her.
Absolutely.
You name dropped her in, was it one of the Rotten Ruin books? Where they talked about the stories of the legend of Rosie?
Yeah, it was Bits and Pieces, I think, was the book.
Bits and Pieces.
And when they did the Rotten Ruin adaptation for Webtoon, which are comics formatted for your phone, they used Rosie as Nix's dog. So all the pictures of Rosie they drew were based on photographs of Rose. All the pictures of Pirate in the book are based on Rosie, and that was a surprise. I didn't know they were going to do that.
That is so cool.
So, what's your writing process like?
Oh boy, it's pretty orderly. You know, I first off, I usually am up early, and you know, I try as often as I can to get down to the beach, and I read poetry every morning before I write. By reading poetry aloud, it really helps you with your prose. The concision that a poet has to take complex ideas and distill them down to just a few words is remarkable. So novelists really can learn a lot from that. And then I come home. I you know, take Rosie for a morning walk and all that stuff. And first part of my day is business. I have to handle all the business stuff because at this stage of my career, you know, I've got 20 or 30 different projects in various stages of development, from, you know, absolute beginner to contracts I have to deal with, or pitches I have to draft, or whatever, emails to respond to. So that takes a couple of hours in the morning, and then the rest of the day I'm writing, and I write usually until about 5. And I try to do between 3,000 and 4,000 words a day. I know I'm a fast writer, so I kind of tap that. That's a lot of my journalism background right there. And like right now, I'm doing revisions on a book because one of my publishers got a market study that said that trilogies sell better than ongoing series. I know that Joe Ledger does, but you know, that's different. But so I was doing the 3rd book in the Necrotech series with the thought that I would continue the series, and they said they wanted to make the 3rd book, wrap it as a trilogy, and then maybe a year later do another trilogy. Kind of like, if you know the fantasy writer Joe Abercrombie, he sold this 15 novel series to the publisher, but they're having them do it as 3-book series, 3 books, you know, every story, even though it's clear this trilogy ends and the other one picks up right where the last one ended, they can still call it a trilogy, which will sell more copies. Marketing thing. So I am now just finishing the revision of that book as the ending of this trilogy. So I'll get that done and I'll go on to the next project. But my writing process, part of it is always getting ready for the next projects. Like I know I edit three issues of Weird Tales every year. I edit 1 or 2 anthologies every year. So like right now I'm co-editing an anthology called The Big Bad Book of Kaiju. I'm editing it with my friend Henry Hertz. And so there's, you know, things you have to do with that. You have to, you know, stuff comes in, you have to edit it, give notes. You have to work to make sure that the stories that are being pitched are unique enough so that it isn't too giant, you know, whatever stories. They're all different stories. So that's part of it. I had to do a couple of comic book pitches this week. And I have a comic book. I have to present 5 comic book pitches for a new project near the end of next month. So since I'll be traveling, I go to Atlanta for Dragon Con, then New Orleans for BoucherCon. While I'm there, I've got to find time to sit down and draft out 5 pitches for this new project. And then they'll pick 2, and those are the 2 that I'll do, 2 6-issue runs. But that takes time too, because I also have to research to do that. That's another part of my process. I have to do research. And it's one of the reasons I cultivate relationships like I have with Ronald Coleman. We met on a panel talking about science in science fiction, you know, getting it right and so on. And we became friends. And he's now a writer too, which is really fun. He's becoming quite a good one, in fact. And I have to, if I'm doing a book, like for one of the upcoming Joe Ledger books, which will be Joe Ledger 17, not the one I'm going to write next, but the one after that, is going to deal with Church moving his organization from Greece to what was an oil derrick platform in the North Sea near England, between England and Scotland. So I've got to research that, how those things are rebuilt into research facilities, undersea, you know, modern biological research undersea, deep sea exploration. All those things are things I have to research. I don't have experts for that stuff. So part of my process now is identifying experts, reaching out and asking if they'd be willing to field questions. Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. So there's a lot of different parts of the process. What I try not to do, and I've made this mistake in the past, and I don't want to make this mistake anymore, is nowadays I want to make sure that I'm always making time for family every day. And that's really important, because otherwise what the hell am I writing for?
Right.
And also, you know, as I said, now I have a grandson. He's 2 months old. A most adorable little child. And I want to spend time with him. And also, that encourages me to, I've lost 44 pounds in the last year. So knowing that I have a grandson and I'm close to 70, I'm 67, I want to make sure that I'm healthy enough to be able to share a big part of that kid's life. And even though my wife is older than I am, she is incredibly fit. So, I want to be a good partner so that we can live a rewarding life. And I just want to be healthy for myself. So that part of it, exercise and dieting, is also part of my process. Because before I lost the weight, I was getting sick all the time. My health was poor. Now I haven't been sick in a year. So I'm seeing effects of it.
Don't jinx yourself. You're heading to Dragon Con.
Yes. Well, Dragon Con, it's a lot of walking, and that's fine. I actually, at one of the other writers' conferences I was at, we were talking about how hard it is for a big man, a big, substantial man, to find shoes that don't kill their feet. And somebody turned me on to this shoe company, and since I've been wearing these shoes, my feet have stopped hurting, my knees have stopped hurting, and my lower back has stopped hurting. That's insane. I mean, I've tried a million pairs of shoes.
Yeah,
I'll send you the information on them. They're called, the company is called Comfo Feet, and they often have a buy one get one sale. The shoes are anywhere between, depending on whether there's a sale, either $40 to $100.
It's not bad.
No, it's not for the quality and the fact they were designed. They're wide toe box shoes. I have size 14 wide feet, so it's either wear a shoe box or get something that has a wide toe box in it. So these are great. And so all of that is process, and then when I'm done for the day, I'm done for the day. And of course, I do keep notebooks everywhere because the ideas never quite stop. And I see there's a question from Michelle L. saying, what is the best advice you can give someone to write a novel or book? A couple things. One, don't let anyone talk you out of it, because they will try. They'll try to intervene on your behalf, saying, oh, it's just all frustration and rejections. Yeah, there's that shit too, but there's that in everything. Ignore that and move past it. That's one thing. Second, don't rely on natural storytelling gifts alone. Learn the elements of craft. If you have to take an adult ed course, read about it online, buy books. The more you understand about the way to manipulate language through voice, figurative language, pace, tone, you can then make your characters more real and your stories more believable. The more you know about language, the more your language can tell your story in a more rewarding way for the reader. And also, join writers groups. Be part. I'm not as big a fan of writers critique groups, but just groups where writers sit around talking about writing, because people run into what they think is writer's block, which is not an actual thing. It's an umbrella term under which there are dozens of different things that can block any individual. But collectively, the writers community will know the answers to all of those. If something blocks me, somebody else will have the answer, and I'll have the answer about what blocks them. It's not a block. It's just something you don't yet know. So if you approach it that way, the writers community will be a constant source of new information. And one last bit of advice, and I'll give you a bit of advice that Ray Bradbury gave to me when I was 13. He said, don't just write the book you want to read. Everybody has that in mind. Write the book you would go out of your way to hunt down and read. Write that book, because your passion will show through the writing. No matter how dark your subject matter, your passion for it and your excitement and joy in writing it will shine through, and the book becomes gold to the reader, because they will then be able to partner with you to understand that story. Because now you're a human being who's written a story rather than just words in a book. So that passion really, really works. So good question.
That's also a great response to that too. I've recently got I don't want to say discovered, but got more into your Monk Addison stories. The last the title escapes me. The collection of stories that you just released.
It's Mystic.
Thank you. That is some dark stuff, man. I don't think I really realized until recently. That he feels.
Hold on, I'm working
everything.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
We're back.
I didn't realize until recently that he feels everything that those folks have gone through. Like he sees the last days of their lives and he's feeling all the emotions and the screaming, and like it affected me. And I think I probably, being a healthcare worker who worked through the pandemic, I feel like, to use one of your terms, I feel like the last couple of years I've kind of walked through the stormlands, and it's been tough. I had to get therapy myself, and I discovered some wonderful medicine that works for anxiety and whatnot. But it was very cathartic for me to read his stuff. I mean, it was sad. There were a couple times where I was crying reading the story because of what some of those poor folks went through.
I was there writing that story too. So.
But God, it was some cathartic stuff, man. Dark stuff.
Well, Monk is my exploration of what happens when empathy is beyond your control. You have it, but it and it allows you to do good in the world, but at the same time, it's hurting you. And Monk has not yet found the thing that turns the empathy off. He will eventually. There is a planned last Monk Addison story. I'm not sure when I'll write it, but I know what happens. And if there's a short story that just came out in an anthology, I think it's called The Other Side of the Mountain is the name of the anthology. But there's a Monk Addison story in there that you have not yet read. It's called I think it's a drunk hanging with a drunk skip tracer on Boundary Street or something like that is the title of it. But he's he's living in Pine Deep now, and he meets an old friend from his PMC days, his private military contract days, and they both are trying to get to the fire zone, and Monk doesn't think he's allowed to go yet, and that's the tragedy. He doesn't think he's worth saving. He saves everyone else. He doesn't realize he's not trying to save himself, and it deepens the elements of Monk. There was a story, I think it was called Faces, that also dealt with Monk in the fire zone. The fire zone is a concept that I created years and years ago for an experimental play that I did at Temple University, and it's a place where if your life is completely off the rails, and by the way, pretty soon I have to roll too, but if your life is completely off the rails, you can, if you can, you find your way to the fire zone, and it's a place where you can essentially fight to rebuild your own karma. You can rewrite your karma there, and Monk needs to go there. The novel Glimpse has a lot about the fire zone in it. I don't know if you've read that one yet, which also has Monk Addison in it. It's the first novel he appeared in. He's since appeared in Ink as a primary character and Burn to Shine as a supporting character. He is, next to Joe Ledger, he is my favorite character I've ever created.
It was fun to see the reunion of everybody, or the combining of everybody there in Burn to Shine, and just their interactions. I think my favorite part of the entire thing was when they had the realization there's something different about Sam Hunter. And I always loved Sam Hunter's character because, up until recently, I was 6 feet tall, 250 pounds. I'm 49 years old. I could see myself being Sam, and he's still the hero, in his stories. But
a lot of those characters, I put them in Pine Deep, in Burn to Shine, because with the next book, with this one, Red Empire. With the next book, we're going to start having a slight change of direction with Joe. Fewer of the characters that he's met along the way will be pulled along through the series from here on. I want to make them a little more individual in terms of books, so new readers can jump in and not feel lost. And Red Empire, is also Mr. Church's origin story, so that was a lot of fun to write.
Heard that. I was super excited to see where that goes.
Let's just say a lot of people figured out one of his identities, and it is a legitimate identity for him, based on a real person. But if you read the autobiography of that real person, they claim to be, the character Count Saint-Germain was a real historical person, and he was friends with a whole bunch of writers and musicians and so on back in the day, and he claimed to be 500 years old. So who was he before he was Saint-Germain? So I get to play with that a little bit. Red Empire was it's my editor's favorite book in the whole Joe Ledger series. And
I'm excited to read it.
Yeah, and then I get to go on to write Avalon Station, which will be the next one, which will be the book that is the full reset. It's still Rogue Team International, and it's still a lot of the same characters, but there'll be some new faces as well.
Well, we know that that unless you're planning on getting divorced, that Rudy's going to make it. So that's good. He's got plot armor.
Yeah, there are a couple. I mean, Top, Bunny, Rudy, Church, Joe, and Junie are the only ones that are safe.
Wow.
And Ghost. There would be a riot if I killed Ghost. I mean, there would be.
Oh my! I was afraid you were going to with the Relentless.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people were afraid of that too. And but the thing is, I knew that I was never going to kill Ghost off. We know from the future stories of Joe Ledger that he retires. Eventually, dogs don't last forever, and that Joe is with Banshee. Well, not Banshee, with Baskerville in a later story, and a couple other dogs. But and Grim was one of his dogs for a while. But Ghost is my favorite fictional dog, and he has plot armor for sure. No one else does.
When you get a chance to circle back to some of DA's stuff, he has a character in his story named Gideon, and it's one of those mysterious, church-like characters, and I'm always excited to read his stuff about what we learn about Gideon now.
And it's fun to parse that stuff out too. Now, DA, I don't know if you've had Gideon's whole origin story from the beginning. I actually did have Church's from the beginning. I kind of knew where I was going with him from a long time ago, and it's been difficult to parse it out because part of me wanted to tell this whole story, and part of me didn't. Some people like the mysterious character and don't want to know. It's like you might have a really popular movie character and they want to go back and do an origin story. Sometimes the original writers don't want to do that origin story. They want the character to be mysterious. And Church will answer a lot of questions. We won't answer all of them, and there will be new questions. I mean, like the very last scene in Burn to Shine opened up a couple of new questions. If you remember.
Yeah, I was always scared that if I read the origin, that meant you were ending the series, and I would probably cry.
No.
I got very scared when he wrote book 10 until the epilogue. I'm like, oh, he's ending the damn series.
There's a character that I write named Jay Matoska. He's Native American, and he's older than people realize. And whenever someone asks him about something, his big line is, "I'll tell you about that someday."
That's a good line too. And Church is his line is, "The war is the war," and the war has been going on for a very long time, and it's not going to end anytime soon. He is in it for the fight. So, but I do have to bail here, guys. This has been. I can talk to you guys all night. You guys are always a lot of fun. I hope you invite me back again.
Oh, definitely. We'd love to have you back.
Great having you on, man. Thank you so much for being here. Hanging out.
Oh, my pleasure. And in a couple of months, I may have some really big news, and maybe we can arrange for me to drop it on this.
Oh, yeah, we would love that.
Yeah.
I've got three or four big announcements that if any of them hit or all of them hit, they're going to be, each one is going to be a big moment for me and hopefully for the people who follow my stuff. And it'd be fun to drop it with you guys and see what the reaction is.
That would be fantastic.
Amazing. Awesome.
Before you run, would you mind for just a moment let everybody know where they can find all of your books? And
sure.
I've been dropping the links throughout the chat here, but let them know where they can find the books and what to look for, and we really appreciate you being with us.
Oh, sure.
Well, what's coming up?
I appreciate being here. So as far as where to find me, if you just spell my last name right, I'm easy to find. MAB. People love putting a Y in the middle of it. It's not there. MAB. So JonathanMaberry.com. I'm at Jonathan Maberry on Blue Sky, Threads, Twitter. If you just search my name, I'm on all the socials. So just come and find me. I will be starting a new interview podcast later this year with friends like Doug Jones, the actor, Wayne Brady, and a few others. Ray Porter will be on it with me. Ray Porter will probably help me launch the first episode. That'll be fun. That'll be closer to the end of the year. Also, I do an Ask Me Anything every Thursday from 4 to 5 Pacific time on Facebook. And I give prizes away for the best questions each week, too. So, come and join me for that. But if you're looking for any of my books, any bookstore can order my stuff. I've got 1 million titles out there. There's a lot of stuff out there. But if you ever want signed stuff, there are 2 brick and mortar bookstores here in the San Diego area that are my go-to stores. One is Mysterious Galaxy Bookstore. So look up Mysterious Galaxy, it'll pop up. That's where I host my monthly Writers Coffee House group, which is a networking thing for writers I do. And then the other one is Artifact Books. And Greg Mullen, the owner of that, you guys would get along with him too. big, burly, bearded, and tatted out guy who looks like he will dismantle you and then ride off on a Harley because he looks like that kind of guy. But he owns a bookstore and he's deeply literate. In fact, the tattoos on his knuckles read hard. Gotta love that approach.
That's
And
amazing.
That's awesome.
yeah, and he's also a writer, and he's a really dear friend of mine, Greg Mullen. But Artifact Books and Encinitas, either of those stores can order anything of mine, and they will ship anywhere. And also, it's brick and mortar bookstores rather than a big box store or an online store. And I always like people going to a brick and mortar because the difference between those and the box stores, aside from the fact that these people are making a living off this thing and it's their life. In a box store, you can go there and they can tell you what shelf it's on. Go into an indie bookstore, they can tell you about the book. They can tell you about the author, and they can tell you about the reader likes. You like this, you'll like this, because they absolutely know books. And that makes those stores absolutely worth gold.
Yep.
So Artifact Books, Mysterious Galaxy, get all my stuff. And if you're around Dragon Con, come on in because I'm gonna be doing a bunch of panels there. And I always do San Diego Comic Con and some of the other big cons. So I get around. And I'd love to meet you guys. So
Oh, absolutely. Well, like we said before, there's always a glass of whatever you want to imbibe upon if you ever hang out with us.
We can
I
have
think
that
you can find a
discussion.
whiskey or two around us.
Yeah, there's some around here too. In fact, my buddy Ian Somerhalder even has a bourbon brand, Brothers Bond. He and Paul Wesley, the guy who was his co-star in Vampire Diaries. Ah, there you go, Brothers Bond.
So
Right on.
this is my wife's bottle because she loves Paul Wesley and didn't want to open it. But you can't see it on camera, but this decanter is full of Brothers Bond.
Oh, nice.
It is literally my go-to bourbon. So,
I'll have to tell Ian about that. He'll get a kick out of it. And Paul.
oh,
Nice.
I absolutely love it.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well, on that note, I'm gonna go have food, finish my edits, have some dinner with my wife, and maybe have a little drink.
Jonathan,
Hey.
thank you for being here, sir.
Thank guys. This has been a hoot, and I really appreciate it. And also, you guys are in interesting careers: law enforcement, ex-military, nursing, and so on, healthcare. Man, thank you for your service. All the things you do, and that really does matter because if you're out there helping people, you're out there doing good in a world that needs help.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah. And on that note, I will say goodbye to you guys. Take
Have
care.
a great night, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, that was absolutely awesome.
That was
Oh,
cool.
he's amazing. So did you squeal just a little bit when he mentioned he'd read your books?
Yeah, I texted. I don't know if you saw it, but I texted Robbie and Doc, and it was the John Belushi. Holy shit! From Animal House. It's like holy shit.
And the funny thing is about him, what you saw here is him.
Yeah.
Like he was so gracious that I met him at the bookstore, and I walked up to him and I said, "Mr. Mayberry, can I ask you a big favor?" And he goes, "Well, if you do one for me first," and I'm like, "Sure." He goes, "Quit calling me Mr. Mayberry. It's Jonathan." And he shook my hand, and I said, "Can I please get your autograph?" I literally grabbed Rotten Ruin off of the shelf and grabbed a Sharpie from the girl at the desk. And of course, I bought it afterwards. It's like, absolutely. And we talked a
You're
little bit.
lucky she didn't raise the price on you because it was a signed edition.
Yeah. But we talked about it a little bit. And then
He didn't think that was true.
I was with my friend Matt, and he did selfies with us. And I guess I didn't process how big a dude he was until I looked at the picture after the fact. And I was at my heaviest then, so I was about 260, and I literally looked like a munchkin standing next to him. He is
that's what we used for the thumbnail. That was the picture we used for the thumbnail the first time we had him on.
Yep, he's bending over a little bit too, so he's not at his full height. But look how wide he is. He could dismantle me.
He's a big dude.
And he was super nice, and we got to talk about whiskey and stuff like that, and talks about how there's always a bottle to be shared somewhere if we ever end up in the same place. But that was pretty cool. The he actually had Brothers Bond was in the most recent Ledger story.
Oh, that's cool.
Joe was drinking it. And he goes, "Yeah, for a celebrity whiskey, it's not shit," and he was all excited about it. But yeah, good stuff.
That was a good time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a good dude and a huge nerd, and he's definitely our people. I'm glad he brought up the Benedante because of all the stuff he writes, that's the closest to cryptid fiction that he does. And Sam Hunter's an amazing character, and the fact that he's a slightly balding, middle-aged, pot-bellied, alcoholic, private eye, the fact that he's the hero, not everybody gets to be Joe Ledger. Some of them can be heroes besides.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was really enjoyable.
He's a cool dude. So did you notice that he? It sounded like he might have teased a little bit about who Church is.
Yeah, he did.
I was like, interesting. I love it. Of all the people on the planet who conceivably could have the Spear of Destiny, it's probably Church. He has a friend in the industry and it's in a locker someplace. I am curious to see what kind of shit hits the fan for their reboot, though. Considering Rogue Team International is currently hanging out in like a Bond villain secret base inside a dormant volcano in Greece. What the F happened that they have to move out of there?
It may not be dormant anymore.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a very good possibility. I love it.
Tell me those are scrubs you're wearing.
They are. Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say those are some very interesting red pants.
No, I'm just not wearing the top. I put the top on before I go to work because it's so warm. But no, yeah, I go to work tonight here in about an hour or so. I just didn't want to wear the whole shebang. No, just my red scrubs. I like to really mess with them sometimes, and I wear the red top of my black bottoms, which is the wardrobe they make the psych patients wear. So,
did you see Cajun Dog's comment?
I don't think I would want to see a fight between the two of them. It would, it would literally be like Wolverine fighting Deadpool because they would keep killing each other and just keep coming back. That's awesome. I still would like to see Margolin interacting with Joe Ledger.
Margolin had to get punched in the face, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, absolutely. But there'd be a certain level of snark before Joe takes him out.
Yeah, there'd be some snark involved, but Margolin would end up getting carried out.
Yeah. Clark could probably hold his own. He might need the hammer to help him, though. I think one of my very, very favorite interactions with Jonathan, the day I met him, we were sitting there talking, and in Patient Zero, Joe starts off carrying Gideon. There you go. Joe starts off and he's carrying a Glock because he was a Baltimore police officer, and there's a scene where he flips the safety on his Glock, and I called Jonathan out on it, and I said, so how does Joe have a Glock with a safety on it? He goes, oh, don't even get me started on that. I'm like, what? He goes, well, we have editors, and the editor wanted the safety to add suspense. They wanted to clicking the safety off. And he goes, I used to carry a Glock. They don't have safeties. And in my original fucking story, there was no safety on that Glock. And I was like, he goes, yep, I didn't catch that the edit was made until he was reading his proof copy. And he's like, son of a bitch. So
to me, the editor's job is to suggest changes, not to put them in there.
But yep, he tripped the safety on Joe's Glock 22.
Yeah, I'd be pissed if somebody did that to one of mine.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, most of the people that you potentially have edit wouldn't have the the skill set to even know the intricacies of some of your weapons. I mean, some of your weapons in your stories are deep cuts. You know, they're not the typical stuff your average gun porn nerd knows about. Is that your doggos, Robbie?
It's just one. That's just Cap.
Uh-oh.
Bucky don't bark. If you hear Bucky barking, there's something going on.
Well, Kenai forced his way in, sat on my lap for about 2 minutes to see Jonathan, and then checked out.
Yeah, he's done.
Yep. He's old. He and Rosie get along.
Harley's getting there. He's very gray in the muzzle anymore.
Oh, Pocketbook Doc's gone too.
Oh. Oh my God. Oh, he's too cute.
He's been sleeping on my lap on this pillow the whole show.
So we've got
that dog ain't spoiled rotten, not at all.
No, not even a little bit.
Oh Lord.
That dog's so spoiled, salt wouldn't save him.
Man, that dog is he's so spoiled. I mean, good Lord, he knows where his bread's buttered.
Yeah, he is too cute.
He is. He's a doll baby, as Angie calls him. What? I'm sorry.
Well, Jonathan's definitely a good time. That would be pretty awesome if he dropped some stuff on our show.
He seemed interested in my book too, so.
Oh, yeah, well, he's the real deal, you know. He
seems to be very genuine, and that's a.
He perked up when I said my book's about werewolves. I'm a werewolf guy. He said, "What's your book's names?"
Well, I mean, the fact that he liked dog soldiers, I mean, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I watched because I'm the only one in the group who hasn't seen it yet. I saw all three of you get this look on your face when you mentioned dog soldiers. I'm like, it's like the holy grail.
Bro, you got
that is a good movie.
Steve, come on.
I think it's on Amazon, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think
Probably.
so. It's streaming out there for free somewhere, man.
I gotta find it because I belong to so many of the streaming services.
It's to me, it's kind of like. I mean, some people may get pissed about because it's to me it's like a cult classic, kind of like American Werewolf in London. It's kind of campy, you know, maybe not as campy as American Werewolf in London, but yeah, it's a great because Angie, when she saw it, you know, she saw the preview and everything, she's like, I don't know, and then we watched it, she's like, damn, that's
Neil Marshall.
Unfortunately, if it's on Tubi though, there'll be commercials.
Yeah,
that's all right. I got Tubi and
Neil Marshall made the movie that he wanted to make. Had that movie been with a bigger budget and a bigger movie company or whatever, he wouldn't have got to make the movie he wanted to make.
Right. It was very well done.
Yes,
what it was. So,
and you know, there were only 3 stunt people that did the werewolves.
No way.
That's why you only ever see 3 on the. It's implied that there's a lot more, but you only see 3 at any given time. Or that's the most you see on camera, because he wanted really specifically. He wanted tall, athletic male dancers that did like ballet and stuff because they had to walk in those still.
Oh yeah.
So they had to get. I mean, think about it when they're walking down the hall, they're bent down. You can tell they're walking on those stilted costumes, and they had to be in them for a long time. So that's obviously a small pool to pull from.
Right.
So that's why and plus it was probably a good bit of money for each of those costumes too. So, but
see, I've got to make sure to find his show. Just him interviewing Doug Jones would be pretty cool. Doug's a neat dude.
I got cracked up when he's talking about Wayne Brady. You stand next to Wayne Brady, your complexion will clear up.
Wayne's wrote a couple of stories in the last anthology that Jonathan put out, and they're not bad. They're good stuff.
He seems to be our kind of people.
Oh, definitely is. Definitely is.
He certainly didn't pull any punches when it came to Steven Seagal.
No,
Y'all saw what I did.
no.
Yeah, there was
I can't
no
stand that son of a gun.
sugarcoating on that situation.
Well,
Nope.
I've never, honestly, anybody I've ever met that had a personal encounter,
Up.
it was along the same vein. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it this way, and just think about it in the big. When we were all kids and all growing up, we all watched the same things. It was Van Damme and Seagal. But you think about it, and especially you and I, DA, from a writer standpoint, Van Damme always got his ass kicked and came back at the end and did just what he needed to do and had that hero's arc and it did it. Seagal never got touched. He was always the best at everything.
And his most recent movies, all his fight scenes are from a chair.
If you want to see some funny stuff about Steven Seagal, watch So Bad It's Good. They torment his movies in that channel. It is hilarious.
Yes, Seagal's never hit, is he?
No,
He had
Very,
one film
very.
where he was
maybe.
shot.
Although in Air Force One, he did die at the beginning of Air Force One.
Not Air Force One. That was no, was
Because he was on that stealth plane that was going up to lock up with.
Air Force One was the one where Harrison
That
Ford
was-
was the president.
That
That was
also-
what was it?
Kurt Russell was in it. I can't remember.
Yeah, Kurt Russell, John Leguizamo. I think Michael Biehn was in it too. And then West
I
Studi
thought it was
in
Air Force One.
No, it's not Air Force One. It's
Executive Decision.
Executive Decision. That's it. You're right.
That's all right. I was getting ready to consult the Googles, but you beat me to it.
Mondot, the trader thing is that Seagal has done a lot of stuff in the Czech Republic and Russia, and at times has openly bashed the U.S. in ways that could get people shot in other times. Let's just put it that way. So, but like I said, just look at it just from the standpoint of, okay, if you want to write a hero that everybody gets behind, are you going to write somebody that is the best at everything and never gets touched and never? I mean, what's the story or the thing you told me? You know, your hero needs to get his ass kicked every once in a while.
Correct.
And you look at all of Van Damme's movies. Does Van Damme ever go through a movie without getting the brakes beat off of him?
No.
You know, he'll it's fine when he's got the lower level guys, but he always gets his butt kicked and has to train or has to do something and has to rise himself up. You never see that with Seagal, ever. And think about the UFC. He's taking credit for teaching Anderson Silva all kinds of stuff. And Anderson Silva was just a stand-up guy, and he was just like, yeah, he came in here and showed us some things. But to believe that Steven Seagal showed Anderson Silva anything, pound for pound, one of the greatest fighters of all time, nah.
Well, I would love the videos you see of him where he does like the Master Ken thing, where these guys keep coming at him and he's like literally pushing them aside with like the palm of a hand. I'm like,
Oh yeah, his little stunt doubles that he's got, or his stunt workers that he's got, is his And what's up with that pillow he's wearing in the? You notice he's got that big pillow on the front of his gut. Is that so in case somebody punches him, it don't hurt him? Those videos you're talking about, Steve.
Oh, I don't know. I wish I knew.
Go back and watch those videos. He's like he's got a pillow on his gut. Well, that may be. That's what I was about to say. Maybe it is just his gut.
I know he had a lot of complaints from stuntmen that he injured.
Yeah, he likes to hit stuntmen.
Several movies.
Yep.
So,
Well, Judo Gene LaBelle pretty much gave him the business, choked him to sleep, made him defecate on himself. He made the accusation. He made the claim that nobody could choke him out.
Oops.
So
You know who could? No, you know there is one. There's two people that nobody could choke out. The Barbarian brothers.
that's true.
Those guys, they had the strongest necks in powerlifting.
Good Lord.
Yeah. That's where that scene in the Barbarians came from, where they tried to hang him. They said, "Oh no, he's dead." And they started doing the. I can't do it, or I'll start coughing.
Yeah.
Those two idiots were so fun in movies.
Yeah, one
Rabbit,
of them died.
rabbit, treat him good. Lucky, lucky, knock on wood. Yogi Berra, Tug McGraw, start her up. Kumbaya.
Lord.
Hey, you want some more spaghetti?
Oh, those guys were so stupid. They were funny.
What are you doing with my face?
I have no idea what you're even talking about.
The Barbarian brothers. They were power lifters that went into making movies.
David and Peter Paul.
Yeah, they made some hilarious movies. So bad they were funny.
Doc, have you ever seen DC Cab with Mr. T and
Yes.
They were in it.
Yeah, they're in DC Cab. They're the twins are in DC Cab.
Okay.
That's funny.
All right,
The
Tim.
more you know, Doc,
The more you know.
and knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
When Jonathan went to start referencing a movie and he was trying to think of the name of it, I was watching you perk up there, Robbie. It's like, oh, Robbie's been waiting his whole life for this. He knows this movie.
Right.
There was zero worry in my mind that I was gonna. If he's talking about a werewolf movie, Da, did you worry that he was gonna pop a movie out and I didn't know? Doc, did you?
I had no concerns whatsoever. And nobody could beat you in pop culture when it comes to werewolves, especially.
Not when it comes to werewolves, because I was drawing on deep knowledge when I threw that one out as a trivia question. Like, this is a movie that like 4 people watched. It was so bad.
And I popped it off, and Doc looked at Da and said, "Is he right?" Da's like, "Yep, he's
Held
right."
up my phone and showed him.
That's awesome.
Oh,
I was about to say, are we still live, Da? Because it's spinning on my phone.
yeah, we're still
live.
up.
We're still live, and we stayed on topic for 2 hours.
Come in, Jonathan, to keep us honest. Well, we are at the top of the hour. We probably ought to start winding it down, especially since Steve's got to go to work tonight.
I got to go to work. Yep, it was a milestone show. We had Jonathan Maberry on for episode number 3, and I was sober the entire film, or the entire show.
Are you sure, Steve?
This is just coffee. Sadly.
Yeah, when I thought we weren't gonna be able to get Jonathan when we were having all the technical glitches, when I thought he wasn't going to come on, I was going to switch from coffee to bourbon.
Yeah.
I took a page from your book one day. I had a particularly crappy night, and I got off work, and I was drinking Irish coffee. I was using some of that Prohibition blend Bushmills that I've got, and I was just doing black coffee and that. And my wife comes home at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm still sitting on the porch drinking coffee. She goes, "You drink coffee all day long?" I'm like, "Nope, ran out of coffee about 10." And I'm just drinking Bushmills out of a coffee cup.
I had a really crappy day at county one time, and I came home and went out with a big tumbler full of coffee and was pouring Irish whiskey into it. And when it started getting low, I just add more whiskey. And Annette came out and she goes, "Are you okay?" I said, "Well, I had a shitty day." And she goes, "What are you drinking?" I said, "Coffee and coffee and Irish whiskey." I said, "You want some?" She goes, "No, that doesn't sound like a good combo." I said, "Well, it's really no coffee left in it. I ran out of coffee a few hours ago." She's like, "Well, yeah, I'll leave you to it then." She went back in the house.
Carry on, soldier.
She's like, "If you fall asleep out here, I'll try to wake you up for morning."
Exactly.
Okay, well, we're going to start winding her down. And folks, again, check out Jonathan Maberry's books. He's a fantastic writer, super nice guy, as you guys got to see for yourself. I'm going to throw his links up one more time in the chat. That's jonathanmaberry.com. Maberry, not M-A-Y, Maberry. And just check out his books and show some support for an awesome author and an awesome guy. And we're thrilled to have him, and we're definitely going to have him back.
Yeah. Can I throw out a shameless plug as well for myself?
Sure, go for it.
So, in the last couple of months, the missus and I decided to open up a small business. We couldn't swing the pub and grub, although we would have loved to have done that. But we opened up a bubble tea shop, and so those who are like Springfield local or can get to Springfield local, check us out. We'd love the sales, and I'm a little partial, but my daughter, who's our creator or bubbarista, if you will, is a wizard. She can make some pretty awesome stuff. But Jade Dragon Bubble Tea, those local Springfield, you can check us out at the Metro Eats food truck lot. They're on West Sunshine at Kansas Expressway. We'd love to see you. We'd love to introduce you to our stuff and take your money and introduce you to more stuff. Mrs. really appreciate it. And the bonus is you get to hang out with the missus. She's always there when she's not at school working. So.
And I am posting the link to their Facebook page. So swing by, give them a like, and you can find out where they're at from there. And swing, if you happen to be in the Springfield area, swing by and get you some.
Yep. So not quite as cool as the pub and grub, but the wife's always adding new food along the line. Eventually, it'll be the pub and grub without a liquor license for the most part. Because she's introducing foods there all the time. Like I said, I'm partial, but it's good stuff. I didn't think it would be for me, but I really enjoy it.
Just a guy said, D.A. Roberts, author, with Maggie's permission, could you email the video of the file of the video? I want to see if I can enhance it at all. I'll ask her. Let's see what she says. If she doesn't care, I'll be happy to. So let me find out.
Jesus has got it right now too, working on it also. So
cool. Robbie, where do we find your books at?
You can find my books on Amazon. Robbie Jed Rains. Like I said, not too hard to find 3 books, but 4th is forthcoming. Getting pretty close. I just hit almost 28,000 today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right at it. It's like 27,800 something.
Do you have a working title for it yet?
Yes, it is Howl of the Night Wolf.
Sweet. Been looking for it.
And there's going to be some interesting stuff in this one, ain't there, DA?
Oh yeah, I think you folks are going to really like it. And let's hear a little something about a certain company called Dark Angel Medical, or as Robbie and I were joking, if the med kit showed up in the Gideon story we're working on, it was going to be Dark Ages Medical. But let's hear a little bit about Dark Angel Medical from a little medic.
Hey, so head over to darkangelmedical.com and check out our wide variety of kits. We are going to be getting Ouch Pouch and Ouch Pouch Plus back in stock soon. Fingers crossed. It's been like a year. And we have all of your trauma kit needs, first aid kit needs, not only the tools you need, but also the training so that you know how to use them. So head over to our training calendar. If there's a class near you, sign up for that class and get your learn on. And you can also go to our YouTube channel. We have a link there for a free 30-minute training session that you can get some good information on. And all of our kits are HSA, FSA approved. And if you ever use one of our kits to save a life, just let us know and we'll replace what you've used absolutely 100% free of charge. It's called our Kit for Life Guarantee. So go over to darkangelmedical.com, use the coupon code CRYPTID20 for 20% off your order, and get a kit, get trained, and be the difference.
And in my best Don Pardo voice, and Doc, tell them how many saves you've got.
207.
That is absolutely awesome.
Yep. Pretty awesome.
207 more birthdays this year.
Pretty blessed.
And folks, one thing that I would be remiss if I did not mention during the show, it's something I will always mention because it's a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, is the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. And the toll we lose on first responders is just as high, if not higher. The line of duty deaths are bad enough, but there more and more first responders just it's very hard for them to deal. And there's that I don't really want to call it the bro code. It's more like the machismo code, where they think it's, unfortunately, so many people think it is not manly or unbecoming to seek help. Well, I can tell you firsthand, it's not. Yeah, every once in a while, we all need somebody to lean on, and doesn't make you any less of a person to seek help. And I hope that anybody out there that has been considering it but have been afraid to, I hope you hear my words and pay attention. There's nothing wrong with you if you need a little help, because we all do from time to time. I've spoken to a therapist, and I'm the first. I'm generally the first guy to go, no. As someone posted eloquently in the chat, my motto used to be Fido, which is what I learned in the Army. Fuck it, drive on. FIDO. Stuff it down and move on. And that's what I did for years. And back in 2012, when that dude almost stomped my skull in, I had to see the therapist. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. I spent 2 months in a neck brace and about 6 weeks not being able to remember my kids' names. And when I started to get better and get ready to go back into uniform, my hands would shake when I tried to pick up my duty belt. I had it bad. And yeah, sometimes you've got to talk to somebody. And I'm more than just, the phone call of, hey, how, guy, are you awake? Or, hey, buddy, you awake? And more than just that, sometimes you need to talk to somebody who's trained to handle it. And it doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you any less of an officer or soldier. It is there, and you should utilize that.
Amen.
So, reach out, get help, because 22 a day is 22 too many. And I would rather hear your story than see your obituary. Reach out. I mean it.
Amen.
And that I've seen too many folded flags presented at funerals to ever want to see another one. So let's just keep that in mind. Everybody, reach out to your friends and family, your first responder and military friends and family. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you care, because 22 a day is 22 too damn many. Having said that, we're going to wind her up. And since Steve's with us tonight, I want to see if Steve would be so kind as to take us out with a toast. I'm going to take my hat off and grab my coffee.
Well, okay, say if you got some water or something stronger, grab a little bit of it. And of course, this is from the famous song "The Parting Glass." It was written with the idea that it was the guy leaving the bar before his other friends, but we all know it means a little bit more than that. But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. Shalom.
Slanjama, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. This is Wednesday. We'll see you guys on Saturday night. Good night.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAX Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.